What do you think is the basis for their calling for your impeachment? Do you think you've done anything wrong?
No, I don't. I think it is a disagreement over policy, and I think it is used for political purposes to continue a negative dialogue about a migration challenge that is not unique to the United States, to continue that dialogue, to uplift it for political reasons.
That was Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas refusing to accept any blame for the crisis that he's implemented on our southern border. He says he will cooperate with House Republicans' plans to impeach him, but they are responsible for fixing the immigration system. Let's bring in advisor for the New Jersey Center for Hispanic Policy, Research and Development, and host of America at Night and This is America with Rich Valdés, the one, the only Rich Valdés. Also with us, former acting director for ICE and former chief of the Border Patrol, Ronald Vitiello. Welcome to you, gentlemen. Ronald, I want to begin with you. Given the lies Mr. Mayorkas has told about Latino border agents, given the 6.5 million illegal aliens streaming into the country and counting, given the 110,000 fentanyl deaths last year, the illicit guns, the out-of-control sex trafficking and entrenched military emplacements along our border, isn't Mayorkas the poster child for big, failed, and unaccountable government?
100%. You forgot the part about where he blamed Trump for the current immigration crisis. He blamed Trump when it was his crisis on the border to manage with. Yeah, there's no credibility here, right? They were handed a border that had 45-year lows in activity of illegal migration across the southwest border. The got-away numbers were lower, the human trafficking and the deaths were lower, the number of terrorist database watch list hits were lower, and now it's out of control in every category. He's broken every single record in those categories, and he has to deny it because otherwise he would admit this failure and give them more ammunition for the House Republicans to arrange him for impeachment and hearing.
Rich, in the meantime, thousands of illegal aliens are being bused from Texas, to share the love. And they're staying in 85 New York City hotels at taxpayers' expense. Mayor Eric Adams announcing another hotel is going to open in Long Island City, the Wingate by Wyndham, where Americans have to pay $600 a night, but illegals will stay courtesy of the U.S. taxpayer. What is your sense, Rich? Have Americans had enough of the Democrats' America Last agenda?
Yeah, lamentably, it seems like it hasn't happened soon enough. This looks like another sweetheart deal that Eric Adams is giving to his buddies in real estate that have helped to fund his campaign in order to really foot the bill for Biden's border crisis, which is wreaking havoc on New Yorkers, wreaking havoc on people all across the country. And there's an economic impact, there's an impact on crime, and there's a huge impact with the amount of drugs that's coming through, fentanyl at the top of that list.
Ronald, we usually focus on all the calamity at the southern border, and there's plenty to go around. But law enforcement is now desperate for help at the northern border after a staggering 850% surge of illegal crossings there. In my mind, this is just another example of the Democrats' pro-criminal policies inspiring more crime. What do you say?
Again, more failure. I used to work that border in 2005. I was the chief of Swanton sector, and the threat of people flying over the United States into Canada and walking back across the border illegally was something that we tracked very closely. Now we're seeing an 800+% increase. So the same conditions that force agents to be off the line, doing processing, caring for people who are lost in the snow and in the tundra, and that distracts them from seizing drugs, from seizing criminal proceeds, from arresting criminals, saving people from human trafficking. And so, yeah, we have a similar problem, smaller in volume, of course. We have a similar problem now on the northern border. It's because of the policies of this administration. They were handed relief under the immigration law to keep this traffic at bay and let the Border Patrol agents have the tools they need to do their jobs. They took that all away. It caused a crisis on the southwest border, which is now migrating literally to the northern border with Canada.
Yeah. No pun intended. Richie, you were kind enough to invite me onto your nationally syndicated radio show to talk about this, Newsmax being targeted for censorship by AT&T's DirecTV. Now, you're a nationally syndicated talk show host, as I mentioned, and the left wing censors have been after conservative talk radio, as you know, for years because of the crime of disagreeing with them. How worried are you that this corporate censorship is going to expand to kill the home of free speech, conservative talk radio?
You know, that's always in the back of my mind. I always think to myself, man, all they got to do is get a board. We've been seeing a lot of action with different boards of directors and how they can treat people when they don't agree with what you're doing or when they become compromised. And that seems to be exactly what's going on here. Look, I come to work every day and I keep my political bias right on my sleeve, but that's literally my job, to give my opinions and to tell the truth. But there are some people that will put their politics over profits. And when your job is to be a CEO, when your job is to run a board, I think you've got to really focus on having a healthy organization. And it's a scary place to be when you think there's 22 networks that are being paid that aren't nearly as big as Newsmax. The viewership or ratings that Newsmax has, and yet they're trying to push out Newsmax by giving them a really rotten deal where they don't make any money. And to me, this is the height of how you use the system to defeat the system. It's Stalinesque, if you will.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man. I remember the good old days when corporate America was actually, you know, American rather than woke. Richie Valdés and Ronald Vitiello, gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate the time.